Good day to you, ma'am. We would like to present our research entitled Sustainable Practices in Minimizing the Food Waste of Restaurants in Baybay City. A research proposal outline presented by Rial J. Marken, Bilusino Laika, Conciliado Cherilu, Palumba Christy Milan, and Ladaw Hani Marie in the Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, College of Management and Economics, Visayas State University of Vizca, Baybay City, Leyte, in partial fulfillment of the requirements in HMJT 127, Research in Hospitality.
So the background of our study is that reducing food waste is one of the biggest problems that facing the world today. Roughly one third of the produced in the world for human consumption every year, approximately 1.3 billion tons get lost or wasted, and nearly one half of all fruits and vegetables produced globally are wasted each year, according to the UNEP report, or the United Nations Environment Program, in 2020. Fruits and vegetables plus roots and tubers are highly wastage rate of any food. More than 70% of food occurs before it's even go to a customer's plate, and over 40% of that comes from restaurants, according to Matthew Hollis in 2019. Global quantitative food waste per year is roughly 30% for cereals, 40% to 50% for root crops, fruits and vegetables, 20% for oil seeds, meat and dairy products, plus 30% for fish in 2020, according to UNEP. According to UNEP Food Waste Index report in May 4, 2021, the fact that a substantial amount of food are produced but not eaten by human has a substantial negative impact to the environment, socially and economically. Reducing food waste at retail, food service, and household level can provide multifaceted benefit for both people and the planet. However, the true scale of food waste and its impact have been well understood until now. So in the Philippines, estimated of 2,175 tons of food scrap or waste that are in Metro Manila alone. So there are a lot of food waste generated by the Philippines, no, according to Carlo Nograles in 2021. So reducing food waste could improve availability of food and help solve hunger while saving money in economies suffering from pandemic-induced recessions like the Philippines. Having a sustainable practices to address the food waste would also reduce greenhouse gases emission associated with the food that is consumed, and would slow the degradations of the environment through land conservations and pollutions, according also into report of UNET in 2022. Last 2020, the first ever International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste was marked by UN with the theme Stop Food Loss Waste, for the People, for the Planet, the Worldwide Fund for Nature. It was aimed to promoting a sustainable food supply chain to achieve food service security and nutrition. In LGU Baybay, approximately 55 tons per day of food waste generated. According to the LGU, 50% of waste is a bio-waste like skin or fruits and vegetables from markets and leftover foods from food service establishments, according to LGU Baybay in 2016. So, this study will focus on determining the sustainable practices of the full service restaurant that are based in Baybay City, if this has an action plan to minimize the food waste generated. So the statement of the problem of this research is to identify the present sustainable practices that being used to minimize the food waste and selected food service restaurant in Baybay in order to develop an effective sustainable practices to address the food waste that can adapt by the local restaurant. So also the significance of this study, the importance of this study stems from the absolute benefit it will bring the following for the local government, to the community, to the academe, and to the For the local government or the city of Baybay, this research will assist them in gaining a clear image of what constitutes unsustainable food waste management practices, no, in a food service establishment on the premises, that will aim them in deciding whether or not to adopt the local regulations or the law cities, as well as their execution in dealing with the current situation. So the community, they will be the one who will affected by the government's rule and policies, no? So, or academe, making this study one of the benchmark of promoting sustainable responsibility will asset this particular institution. For the food service establishment, they can increase their sustainability by using sustainable measures for reducing their food waste. So the objectives of this study is to determine the sustainable practices that are being implemented by the restaurant to minimize the food waste. The study aims to reach its goal through the following objectives. Number one, to determine if the restaurant profile, the number of customers, locations, and the type have contributions in increasing the food waste. Number two is to determine what sustainable practices they have to minimize their food waste generated. So, in the chapter 2, review of related literature, in the food service sector, food waste is started to get lessened attention and compliance. It generates excessive amount of food waste together with increasing populations. Reducing food waste is now become a trend and added to a sustainable programs of every food service businesses. Customers or diners nowadays, once the food is thrown away, they stop thinking anymore. They don't think what happened to the food that being thrown, how it affects the business and the environment. To reduce the generating of food waste, the food service owner should educate their guests so they become aware why we need to waste, even why we need not to waste even a small amount of food, and with that awareness it will help to minimize and address the global problem. So for the food waste is made according to Grito, together with this co-researcher in 2015. Food waste is made up of materials intended for human consumption that are subsequently discarded. Approximately 1/4 of food supply for human consumption is wasted across the food supply chain. In the high-income countries, the food waste generated at the household level represent about half of the total waste, making this level one of the biggest contributor to the food waste, according to Stancio Violeta and his co-researcher in 2016. Around 1.3 billion tons of edible food or 1/3 of mass of edible food produced for human consumption is unwillingly lost, wasted, according to EU level. At EU level, 88 million tons of edible and inedible food waste was wasted in 2021. So, in these are all reviews that the food waste are the world's problem. Even the richest country has suffered for this problem. So, the cost of this food waste is the restaurant, no? So, the dining restaurants generate the most waste due to the part of use of whole produced and associated wasted generated in preparation, according to Matt Adams and his co-researcher in 2019. According to the researcher, that fine dining is most contributors in the food waste, while limited service generate the least amount of food waste. The limited service restaurant generated the least amount of waste, resulting for high volume and a lack of standardizations of quality assurance control, according to Matt Adams in 2019. So the cost of food waste, inconceivable and irreversible. Wasting food waste money along with the water and energy it took to produce the food, according to Sachs Catherine on 2021. As we imagine, an enormous amount of food is being wasted or being thrown out at the restaurant all across the country every day. The American restaurant industry has a big food waste problem. In 2014, studied by the Food Waste Reductions Alliance found that 84.3% of unused food in American restaurants end up being disposed of, while 14% is recycled and only 1% is donated, according to Verrill in 2016. So reducing food waste is now a trend. There's a lot of sustainable practices on how they reduce the food waste or address the world's problem. No, so according to Hoover of 2022, reducing food waste should consider ways to involve business sector in their efforts, particularly to those sector most often linked to the higher food waste generated, such as the food service. So in the food service industry is the restaurants are the most contributor in the fast increasing of numbers of food waste. No, so um, the concept of reducing or eliminating the food waste becomes global challenge to every food service sector. Food waste occurs in the multiple segments of the food supply chains, like the production uh, and to the consumer level. Lots of measurements and programs addressing the food waste has been proposed and implemented to every food service sector. This will help the food service business reduce or eliminate the food waste in the restaurant. Sustainable programs in reducing the large scale of food waste, like food recovery hierarchy, is now being implemented to reduce the generations of food waste. Also, sustainable management of food can help the food service business and consumer save money and provide a bridge to connect in the communities that do not have enough food to eat and conserve resource for the generations.
Chapter 3. The Methodology. Research Design. This study will use a qualitative method of research. Our general procedure is to determine why the local restaurant in Baybay City have a food waste, and also to determine if they practices sustainability to address the food waste in the restaurants. Full-service restaurants in Baybay City generates more food waste than other food establishments that are based in Baybay City. Some full-service restaurants will neglect the importance of not wasting food. To be able to know whether the full-service restaurants that are based in Baybay City give importance not to waste food, this research study will use survey questionnaires to gather data, information, and useful of our research. For the research environment, the locale of this study is located in Baybay City, Leyte. It is located within the Eastern Visayas region, Region 8. The region has 7 cities that helps the economy of the region grow stronger. Baybay City is the first class component city in the province of Leyte, Philippines. It is situated on the western coast of Leyte, bounded by Camotes Sea to the west, Albuera to the north, Inupacan to the south, Burawin, La Paz, and MacArthur to the northeast, Javier to the east, and Abuyog and Mahaplag to the southeast. Its population is determined by the 2020 census was 111,848. This presented 6.29% of the total population of Leyte province, or 2.46% of the overall population of the Eastern Visayas region. It has a total land area of 46,050 hectares. Baybay City is known to be one of the largest in terms of land area in Eastern Visayas region. Research respondents. This study aims to determine the sustainability practices performed by the restaurants to reduce or minimize the food waste problem, and to know how they come up with those sustainable ideas. The proponents selected the restaurants that are based in Baybay City to be the respondents of this research study, preferably the full-service restaurants. This research study chose the full-service restaurants as the respondents because full-service restaurants are one of the contributors of food waste. This study aims to have at least 5 to 6 restaurants in Baybay. Research instruments. These research instruments that we'll use in this study is a survey questionnaires. The survey questionnaires is selected as it allows the researcher to collect the appropriate data needed to address research issues or of the food waste in restaurants. The survey questionnaires has a set of questions about sustainable practices that helps to minimize the generations of food waste. The survey questionnaires have 2 parts. The first part is ascertained to the profile of the restaurant respondent. The part 2 of the questionnaires determined the possible sustainability practices that performed by the restaurants, reducing the food waste, and to know if they have an existing sustainable practices to minimize their food waste. The questionnaires has 8 set questions. This survey questionnaires is to be given to the restaurant owners as a respondents to the research study. Research procedures. Gathering of data. The data collection methods that we'll use in this research study is survey questionnaires. The gathering of data will start after the approval of the proposed research, and the data gathering will last only 2 to 3 consecutive days. Gathering of data will impose standard protocol to be followed before the data gathering. We will send a letter of consent or request letter of the restaurant's owner if they are willing to be interviewed. After we given a permission from the respondent, we will make sure that each participant corresponds to their predefined criteria. We collected the data by means of survey questionnaires that comprises the name of the restaurants, year established, number of employees, and type of business, and questions. Treatment of data. The responses to the survey questionnaire by restaurants owners were statistically analyzed with the data requirements of the study. Restaurants were statistically analyzed with the data instruments of the study. The descriptive statistics such as frequency count, percent, and rank are being considered. To know how the restaurants respond and address the food waste, and to be able to know if they have a sustainability practices performed to minimize their contribution of food waste. And that would be all. Thank you. Acknowledgement. The completion of this undertaking could not have been possible without the participation, assistance, and guidance of many people whose names may not all be mentioned. These contributions and continued support are sincerely appreciated and gratefully acknowledged. We would like to extend our deepest appreciation and indebtedness particularly of the following. To our instructor and the head of Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Ms. Venus B. Ibanez, for her endless support, guidance, kind, and understanding during our research proposal presentation. To all our relatives, friends, classmates, and others who are in our way and shared their support, either moral, financial, or physical, we appreciate your help. Thank you. And above all, to the great Almighty and our Heavenly Father, who are the author of the knowledge and wisdom, and for His countless love, we thank you all.